Houston authorities say that they have made an arrest in one of the city's most enduring cold cases, the 1990 Lovers Lane murder.
Time may bury the evidence, but with new eyes and everybody coming together in this day and age, finally someone is going to be held accountable for one of Houston's most infamous cold cases in its history, the so-called Lovers Lane's murders. This day is for Cheryl and Andy and their families.
A security guard is doing a routine patrol on a quiet road in West Houston. It's August 23rd, 1990. The summer heat is already settling in before the sun is even fully up. He drives past a white Honda Civic parked at the end of a cul-de-sac. Nothing unusual about that. He keeps going. But when he comes back around and that car still hasn't moved, not an inch, something in his gut tells him to stop. He walks up to the car. On the passenger floorboard, he sees a purse, keys still in the ignition. No one inside. He calls it in. Houston police arrive and begin searching the tree line nearby. And what they find in those woods is something that none of them will ever forget. A young woman, partially unclothed, with severe injuries to her neck, a blue dress discarded nearby, and roughly 100 yards away, a young man, tied up, throat cut, left alone in the dark. Their names were Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson. They were 22 and 21 years old. They had only been dating for a few weeks, and the person who did this to them went home that morning and lived his life for the next 36 years. Let that breathe for a second. Before we go any deeper into this, if you are watching this right now, I need you to do something. Hit that like button, subscribe to Mistora Crimes, and tap the bell so you never miss a story. These are real people, real families who waited decades for someone to care enough to keep telling their story. Every view, every like, every subscription tells the algorithm that Cheryl and Andy matter, that cold cases matter, that we don't forget. Now let's go back to the beginning, because this story did not start on that August morning. It started the night before, in a nightclub full of laughter and music. August 22nd, 1990. Bayou Mama's nightclub on Westheimer Road in West Houston. Cheryl Henry walks in wearing a blue dress. She's there with her sister, and they're meeting Andy Atkinson. By all accounts, Cheryl was the kind of person you noticed, not because she demanded attention, but because she brought warmth into a room without even trying. She and Andy were new, fresh, the kind of couple still in that early stage where everything feels exciting and possible. Around 10:45 that night, Cheryl's sister said goodbye and headed home. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing felt off. She left her sister laughing, alive, happy. That was the last time she saw her. Investigators believe Cheryl and Andy left the nightclub sometime after that and drove to a remote stretch of road near Enclave Parkway, an area that was largely undeveloped at the time. Locals knew it. Young couples knew it. It was the kind of place you went when you wanted privacy. What happened next took everything from them. Here is what the medical examiner found. And I want you to really sit with this, because understanding the nature of this crime tells us a lot about the kind of person who committed it. Both Cheryl and Andy were tied up with rope. Both of their throats were cut with a knife. Andy was found tied to a tree. Cheryl had been sexually assaulted. The killer also took items from Andy's car, including golf balls, and arranged them near Cheryl's body. And a $20 bill was found at the scene. Investigators said that was unusual. Not robbery, not panic. This was deliberate arrangement. Someone who knew what they were doing and was not in a hurry. That detail about the golf balls has always stayed with investigators. It suggests staging. It suggests a mind that wanted something specific, either to send a message, draw attention to a particular spot, or simply exercise control over a scene that was already horrific. Criminologists call this kind of behavior organized, calculated. It points to someone who had thought about violence before, who was comfortable with it. Now here's the part that makes this case so deeply unsettling. The man investigators now believe is responsible was not hiding. He was not on the run. He was not using a fake name in another state. Floyd William Parrott was living right there in Houston, and he was impersonating a police officer. As early as 1988, Parrott had been arrested for posing as law enforcement. He was arrested for it again in May 1990, just 3 months before Cheryl and Andy were killed. and was out on bond when the murders happened. Court records show that in one documented incident in 1995, Parrott drove a car fitted with flashing emergency lights, pulled over a truck driver, approached in full uniform with a gun belt, and told the man he would overlook his expired plates for $100. The driver paid. Parrott drove away. Think about who does something like that. Think about the psychology of a person who consistently puts on the costume of authority, the person communities trust, the person you are supposed to be safe with, and uses it as a weapon. That is not impulsive behavior. That is a pattern. That is a man who understood that a badge, or even the idea of one, makes people compliant, makes people stop asking questions. And here is something that has never been officially confirmed, but that investigators clearly considered. Nobody knows yet whether Parrott used that same false authority the night Cheryl and Andy were killed. Officials said they did not confirm how he approached the couple, but the question is sitting there. Because if a car with police-style lights pulls up behind you on a dark, quiet road, you do not drive away. You do not run. You comply. That question may be answered in court. But right now, it is a thread that investigators are still pulling. For 36 years, over 100 people were looked at as potential suspects. Detectives came and went. The FBI got involved. The Texas Attorney General's cold case unit got involved. DNA was collected from the crime scene in 1990 and preserved, and still nothing, until something quietly happened in the background that most people did not hear about at the time. In 2007, 17 years after the murders, investigators finally tested DNA from a separate 1990 sexual assault involving a woman in North Harris County. The case had gone cold too, but when that DNA was processed, it matched evidence recovered from Cheryl Henry's autopsy. Same perpetrator. The victim from that June 1990 case also worked with investigators to create a sketch of her attacker, a sketch that was later age progressed. Investigators had a face. They had a DNA profile. They had a connection to another crime from the same summer. But the name was still missing. Then in 2020, a private forensic DNA laboratory called Othram, based in the Woodlands, Texas, was brought into the case. Using a technique called forensic-grade genome sequencing, Othram scientists built a comprehensive DNA profile from the original crime scene evidence. That profile was handed to the FBI's forensic genetic genealogy team, and through that process, the same kind of science that identified the Golden State Killer, they began narrowing in on a candidate, but it was still a tip that lit the final match. In late 2025, a Houston police sergeant named Mike Burrow was reviewing the cold case file when he came across a tip that named Floyd William Parrott. He began pulling records, and he found something that changed everything. A 1996 Houston police report in which Parrott was named as the suspect in a sexual assault case. Parrott had claimed the encounter was consensual. A grand jury declined to indict. And critically, the DNA from that 1996 case had never been uploaded to CODIS, the National DNA Database. Sergeant Burrow uploaded it. The match came back almost immediately. Parrott's DNA from the 1996 case matched the male profile recovered from Cheryl Henry's autopsy, and then it matched the June 1990 sexual assault as well. 3 cases, 1 DNA profile, 1 man. Investigators also found that in 1988, when Parrott was first arrested for impersonating an officer, the address he gave as his workplace was just over 1 mile from the Lovers Lane murder scene. He knew that area. He may have used that road before. On March 25, 2026, an FBI SWAT team arrested Floyd William Parrott in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he had moved just 2 years earlier. During questioning, he denied ever knowing Cheryl Henry. He is now facing capital murder charges in Harris County, Texas, which carries either life in prison without parole or the death penalty. Here is what I keep coming back to, and I want you to think about this with me. Cheryl Henry's mother is gone now. Andy Atkinson's father is gone too. Both passed away before this arrest was ever made. They never got to hear the words that their children's families have been waiting decades for. Cheryl's sister Shane said it best. It's heartbreaking that they don't get to have this day. And Floyd Parrott, if the evidence holds, and he is what investigators believe he is, spent those 36 years working in nightclubs, raising children, moving through communities, The DA's office has publicly stated they believe there are other victims out there, people he may have pulled over, people he encountered through the nightclub world, people who may not even know that what happened to them is connected to any of this. So here's what I want to ask you, and I genuinely want to read your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think kept this case cold for so long? Was it the technology gap? Was it the fact that Parrott was never on anyone's radar despite multiple arrests? Or is there something else? Something about the way certain people move through the world, presenting one face to everyone around them, that makes them almost impossible to see clearly until it is too late? And what about that DNA from 1996 that sat outside Cody's for nearly 3 decades? One submission. That is all it took. One submission changed everything. Does that make you think differently about how many other cold cases might be one database entry away from an answer? Cheryl was wearing a blue dress the last night her sister saw her alive. That detail has stayed with me since I first read it. A blue dress, a nightclub, a sister who went home early and never imagined she was saying a final goodbye. Justice is not finished yet. The trial is still ahead. But for the first time in 36 years, the Henry and Atkinson families know a name. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think happened that night. Tell me what you believe the trial will reveal. And if this story moved you, if you think Cheryl and Andy deserve to have their story told, subscribe to Mistora Crimes and share this video. Every mystery leaves a trace, and we are never done looking.